Welcome to the Behind the Drapes podcast. I'm your host, Expo Rich. We are recording here live at the EXPO EXPO show floor here in Houston. And with me, my guest today, Jordan Tuchband of RX Global, the SVP.
Yep.
So great to have you here. I appreciate you joining me today.
Thanks.
You know, what a lot of people don't know is that we know each other for a long time. So it's been our schedules haven't been the best to match up, and so I'm glad that you're here at EXPO EXPO, so I can finally get you on the podcast.
It's kind of funny how that works, where you meet each other at a trade show, and we're almost neighbors.
Yeah,
like,
we live down the street. Yeah, and literally kind of grew up together in the industry. So we've probably been working together for almost 20 years. Thinking about it.
Yeah, like my very first show was September of '97, and then I think ExpoCCI got involved just a few years
like
after
04,
that.
Yeah. So wow.
Yeah,
Been quite we don't feel that old.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. No.
So, well, speaking of that, you said, in the 90s was your first show. And so I always like to know the origin story of how people got into the industry.
Sure.
And I'd like to hear yours.
Sure. So my stepbrother was working at a temp at this jewelry show in Miami Beach. And he asked me if I wanted to do it. It was essentially putting the, back in the day when they had the advertisements that would go in a paper printed directory. It was literally like in the back room, we were just stuffing. That's
doing the stuffing.
That's exactly what it was. Thousands of them.
Yeah.
And they looked at me and they're like, "Well, you're big. You could also check IDs and stuff at the door, kind of thing." And then
work in security, technically.
Right. And then on the technology side, that's where my interests were. I was good at that, so they picked up on that. And then out of college, they hired me full time. And the only position to start was collections, which was a very interesting place to start. It gives you very unique perspective when you're having to call people for money for things. From there, moved into sales at that same company, which was that same jewelry show. Ended up running that show for a number of years and continued to grow it. And then it got acquired by RX, formerly Reed Exhibitions, in May of 2015. And I've continued on and gotten involved in a lot of different industries and stuff since then.
So your first access to it was jewelry, and then you transitioned to other sectors and things. So what are some of the sectors that you work in that you cover under your portfolio?
What I cover in my portfolio is physical security and cybersecurity. So we have a major show called ISC, which is the East and West. Okay. It runs one in Vegas, one in the Northeast of New York. I have G2E, it's Global Gaming Expo for the gaming and the casino industry. Yeah. And then I have ITS, which is Intelligent Transportation Systems. So like all of your DOT, public sector, anything that having to do with traffic management, accident avoidance. And it's a really interesting mix because that particular event is just as big of a conference as it is an expo. So it's a little different model than we have for a lot of our, I'd say, traditional shows, which has taught us a lot of different things about how that industry works. That we've been able to cross-pollinate and bring some of the things that we've learned by executing on that show into some of our other events, on the conference.
Yeah, and it's unique that you also got to see both sides of it as an independent show owner and then into a global organizer.
Yeah,
so
that was a shift.
Yeah, and so a lot of times, so people when they get acquired, there's fear behind. Is it gonna, how's this gonna work? It's gonna be different. It's gonna be whatever. And I mean, you've actually flourished over this, transitions and stuff, and gave you the opportunity for a lot of growth. So I've been super happy to watch your journey so far. So it's been great.
Thank you. Likewise, by the way.
Thank you. And throughout the transition, and now you're in leadership. So becoming a leader, and along the way, you pick up things, and we have mentors and things. So who are some of the people along the way that helped you build? And
sure, there's been a few. I mean, one of my first mentors in the industry was the guy who hired me, which was Mike Breslow, way back in the day.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of things that I learned from him, like especially in a small business kind of environment. You got to wear a lot of hats, got to do a lot of things. How to be as efficient as possible with limited resource sort of stuff. But at the same time, I was also able to recognize things that I didn't like or didn't want. Like, it was like, if I continued in this industry, in this path, I'm not going to do it that way.
Yeah.
Like from a management style, perhaps, or leading a team, perhaps. Like, there were differences there. And then moving from small business into a larger corporation at RX, my immediate boss at that point in time was Yancy Weiner, who's now, I think, CEO, president, or closer still in North America.
Absolutely.
Right. And she was instrumental in my career in helping me navigate that transition. Right. There was a lot of things where you think you've been doing it this way, you have a really good handle on it.
Yeah.
And there's an initiative corporately, there's some other good reason why they want to make a change, and you don't want to do that. This is your baby. You've been running the show. Like, why are you going to mess with it? It's working great.
Yeah.
Like, and to understand that, you know, they're not looking to change things necessarily just because. There's usually a good reason and there's some data to it.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have a difference of opinion on that, like you don't want to do that initiative, or you think there's a reason,
Right.
you can't just say based on a feeling. You can't just be
Right.
subjective about it.
Right.
Like, okay, you don't agree. Well, why don't you agree?
Yeah.
What is your argument to the
Where's the data?
contrary? Exactly. Right. So, and if you've never done the thing, then you don't have any data to prove your point.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that was a good professional lesson that I picked up from her.
Yeah.
And then most recently, it's been Fernando, who's the current president of RX in the Americas. Like, he's been really great about encouraging us to take bigger and bigger swings. You may have heard like Hugh Jones talk about like the bets and things like that. So it's one thing to have the bet, but that execution piece and like, you know, dare to think bigger, dare to dream bigger. Like, the opportunities are out there. Like,
Yeah.
you know, but nothing is going to change unless you make that effort to go for it. So providing a space and a platform, and the support to enable that sort of thinking,
and the
has been
autonomy
great.
to go after it
Yeah.
and do it. You know,
Yeah.
It's one thing to say, yeah, I want you to do bigger and better, but then you have to show me everything, and I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
You know,
How are you going to pay for that thing?
Yeah,
Who's going to build that
yeah.
thing? Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we need accountability, but at the same time, you need the autonomy to get
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we're in an industry that we have the luxury, I call it a luxury, where we get like a redo consistently,
yeah, that's a
right?
good point.
Like when you're working on multiple events at Expo,
Yeah.
you can do a lot of different iterations of a particular activation or something like that. Same for us. Like when we do the show, that show comes around once or twice a year.
Yeah.
So we can make some significant change to test things
Yeah.
out. You know, we don't have to be locked in necessarily
Yeah.
every single time.
Like this is the recipe. Don't deviate from the recipe.
Right.
No, we can try things, and
Right.
if things don't work, that's okay. You know,
Yeah.
or it's also nice to have a you know, as RX has like such a big portfolio of shows, where if something really knocks out, you can say, well, what other sectors could we try this and what things? So yeah.
Yeah, when we look at innovation that way, it's like, okay, so here you have a called a minimum viable product of whatever this widget or solution is. Well, because we're doing hundreds of shows globally, we can do, okay, on this show, it's going to be this way. We're going to slightly tweak it in this way and this way and this way. And now you have 6 or 7 tests that could run almost simultaneously to get to that better outcome, like a more polished product at the end with better feedback. You don't have to do it sequentially, like in a big organizer, right? Because you don't have to wait for that show to come around next year.
Yeah.
You can try it on 4 or 5, however many events.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, well, speaking of specifically that new stuff, trying things. So next year, 2026 coming up. What's exciting? What's got you excited to get out of bed in the morning to roll out?
Of course, like what's gone on in the technology space, right? And you think about large language models and AI, and us, you know, as an industry, figuring out how to better leverage those tools for what we do, which is very, you know, in person.
Yeah.
You know, there's very, you know, personal. Like, how do we start incorporating those sort of things? Yeah, and when I look into 26, I see the adoption and the use cases and innovation around that, and just continuing to accelerate.
Yeah,
and especially large format shows, the amount of data that they can generate and the qualitative side of that data. Like they think about industry trends. Like if you're a major show where a lot of product gets launched, or there's new innovations in the industry coming out, where you cross-reference that to what the attendees say they're looking for, and how has that changed from the last year, and the positions in the companies that they're in, and what kinds of companies are. There's so much qualitative data that's there, and the insights that we can capture through registration and activities on site. So being able to feed that then back to an exhibitor in ways like enhancing the leads that you're getting at the show, because it's no longer just a numbers game about how many leads that you get. Like if you're a lead, you know, capture type event, CMOs, which I think a lot of, are very much looking at the qualitative side now, not just how many, but
I remember years ago it was like a big thing of like, oh yeah, we have so much data, and it's like, well, what do you do with it?
We're great at getting it, but not using it.
and now we're in that era of really utilizing it and figuring out, well, what is the data telling us, and have some storytelling behind it of like, okay, how do we make maneuvers off of this qualitative? You know, so that is exciting. And you know, I know you and I had a nice little nerd out the other day where we got deep on all of our AI ventures and things. So
we use it a lot, right? It's here. If you're not using it, then I'm like, shame on you a little bit. You're missing the boat. It's there's some immediate opportunity to make.
But it's funny because it's like, and now as you get more people into it, and then now you get into a little overload of like everyone's saying, oh, I got a new tool, like it's going to be good for us, and we do this, that. And then it's like, so we're in that moment where people are building great things, but very purposeful in one thing, but don't do this. So you have to have multiple tools to do multiple things. And it's like, I'm sure that like the next phase will be the culmination of things that are going to be really adaptable to, more adaptable or, connected. So
For sure.
yeah. So right now we're just trying to chase our tails on.
Well, it's still
on
new,
get it done.
right? It's
Yeah,
only a couple
exactly.
years old,
Yeah.
and every month it's something
Absolutely.
different, crazy going on. Like, so there's the
We
speed
are
of
early
change
adopters
there.
right now. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and the pace of change that happens in that area, right, is I think good for us. Is from event production standpoint, right? It means that there's a lot of innovation and ideas.
Yeah.
So like, because it's a brand new platform of tools. Like,
Yeah.
so what do we do with this thing?
Yeah.
Right? How do we leverage this
Yeah,
thing?
we're just at the tip of it, but we're the best we've ever been because of it right now. And it's
Well said.
and that's what's
Well
really
said.
cool about
Yeah.
it. It's like we've never been able to do the things we've done before because of it, but we're just scratching the surface. So, yeah. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I
My
appreciate
pleasure.
you being here, and hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks for having me.